Oke, kita sekarang bersama dengan Mario Wuysang. Hi Mario, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. What keeps you busy nowadays?
Nowadays, after retirement, I took some time off away from basketball because I just needed some time away from the game. But I'm actually a player development coach right now for an academy called Showcase here in Burbank, Los Angeles, California.
Okay. In this difficult situation during this COVID-19, you still going to the academy? You still keep doing the coaching? No. Okay.
No, we're on lockdown here in the state of California, and pretty much, pretty much all of the United States right now is on lockdown. But we've been on lockdown here in California for about 3 weeks, so everything's shut down. Everyone's at the house, quarantine. Like, you're not allowed to go anywhere except to the store and hospital.
You do your own groceries? You do your own cooking now?
Yeah, you have to. I went to the groceries probably about 3 days ago.
Okay.
And it's a limited amount of people that's allowed to go inside, and they have security there, and social distancing, of course, is mandatory. And just yesterday, they made it mandatory here in America to wear masks.
Okay.
When you go out in public, but before it wasn't like that.
Yeah. Same here in Jakarta. The governor of Jakarta just implemented the same policy. Nowadays, people, if they have to go outside, they have to wear masks.
Yeah, mandatory. Yeah,
mandatory. Okay. I just saw your Instagram, a couple hours ago, and I looked up some of the highlights of your basketball career. And one of the posting that I watched is your highlight during your ABL days. You said it is one of your greatest moments in your basketball career, winning the ABL with Indonesia Warriors. Could you tell us a little bit what you most remember from that team?
2012 Indonesian Warriors. I remember a lot of things, and the reason why it's one of my greatest moments in the ABL is because, and my career, is because of my teammates. I think, and just being around those guys. We were really close, not just on the court but off the court, and I think that made a difference, big difference in how successful we were. All the way to the coaching staff. We were just very close. A lot of those guys I played with for a long time. Arky was on that team as well. Dodo, Ronnie Gunawan, Amin Priantono, just to name some of the Indonesian guys on that team. So we were all very close. And also with the Americans on that team, Steve Thomas, Evan Brock, Stanley Pringle, and the Filipinos, Jared Cañada, and Alan Salangsang. So that was memorable because the locker room, off the court, on the court, it was just we were like one unit. We connected very well.
Who's the leader in that team?
That's the thing. We had a lot of leaders, but what made it unique was because all of us were leaders, but we knew when to follow. That was important. There was no one trying to step on each other's toes. When somebody had something to say, we listened. And it was a very healthy environment, and that helped us go far and eventually be able to win the championship.
You mentioned a lot about the players, Stephen Thomas, Evan Brock, and also the Filipino, Jerry Cañada, and also the local players. But could you also comment about your coach at the time, Todd Purvis?
Todd Purvis, he's a player's coach. I would describe him as a player's coach, which means that he would always ask us our input. And a lot of coaches do that, ask for input from the players, but they don't listen. Now, Coach Todd, he was the type of coach that really, really wanted to listen and basically listen to how we felt. How were we feeling? What do we think about this? What do we think about that defense or that offense? And we would give him our input, and he would adjust.
And that's one of the aspects why you have a strong chemistry and winning the championship that year.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the keys. Coach Todd Purse, he's one of the best coaches I've had in my pro career.
Okay.
Him along with Coach Ito, Victor Roring, those are what I would call players coaches. That when they ask you what's your opinion on this, and you tell them, and they really listen.
Yeah. Moving a little bit about the Indonesian basketball league. You still from time to time still following the Indonesian basketball news?
Absolutely. Of course, I will always follow Indonesian basketball news. Like I said, after I retired, November 2018, I needed some time away from the game, so I didn't really watch basketball or pay attention to anything. But eventually, after I took some time off, I got back into following Indonesian basketball for sure, because that's a big part of my career.
Let me ask you about the two things that happening in the Indonesian basketball league now. Number one is policy that they allow 3 import players for each team, but only 2 can play at the same time on the court. What do you think about that rule? Do you think it's positive? Do you think it's need to be improved? Or
I think it's a good rule. As far as what's your question? Like letting 2 at a time play, or having 3?
Do you think that should the league allow that 3 players playing at the same time, or?
I don't mind having 3 players at the same time, but I do understand why they're not letting them play at the same time. I do understand that, because I think if you have all 3 players play 40 minutes, that's going to take a lot of potential playing time and development away from a lot of the Indonesian players. So I do understand why they're not allowing 3 at a time.
Okay. And the second rules with the IBL 2020 now is that there's a height limit for the foreign players. They limit up to 2 meters, 6'6", around 6'6" is the
I didn't know that. Okay.
height. Now, I'm asking you about your opinion. Should the league keep continuing these rules, or should they increase the height limit?
In my opinion, I think they should increase the height limit. But let me ask you, I didn't know that rule.
Okay.
Aren't there some players in the IBL that's taller than that? Some of the import players.
2 seasons ago. But this season,
this season, really, there's no one taller than 6'6".
No, it's 6'6", 2 meters. 2 meters max.
Okay. Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
I think they should allow at least one of the import players to be no limit for height, in my opinion, because that's just going to prepare like the national team, Timnas. I know they're in the league as well, right?
Yes. Exactly.
I think that would benefit in their development and their training as well, to go up against an import that's a 7-footer, for example. So yes, I do think at least one of the imports should be no limit. To make it local players to accustom playing against the 7-footer. Absolutely.
Okay. There's another players also giving suggestion and opinions also because he's already played in the PBA, and saying that in the Philippines the competition is all year long. There's like 3 tournaments,
3 conferences.
3 conferences. All local players. One competition is limited to 6'5" and under, and then all players. The third tournament is for all players, all heights. Do you think that Indonesia should implement that to improve their competition?
Well, here's my opinion on that. I think 3 conferences would be kind of difficult, in my opinion, and not very necessary. Now, you can do 2 conferences, in my opinion. You can do 2 seasons. Now, 2 seasons, each going 4 months, 4 to 5 months, I think. So that's that's a 10-month season. Because you need to give players some time off.
Right.
There has to be some time off. With 3 conferences, that's a lot. And it's just, you're going to see the same team, see the same people. You kind of take out the element of boredom. Players will get bored seeing the same players. So I do believe 2 conferences is good, like two seasons, and you could do 1 with imports and one without, or only one import. So you could do the 3 import for one season or one conference, and then you could do the other one with just locals, or only limit them each team to 1 import.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Mario, let me ask you, with your background as a skill development, right? If I'm not mistaken, what you're doing now, skill development for a basketball player. If you happen to come back to Indonesia and start this program, you know, whatever you do in Burbank right now, in the basketball academy in Burbank, and you come back to Indonesia, well, what are the things that you first implement for Indonesian players?
I mean, individually, I would implement a lot of fundamental work for sure. But if we look at the big picture, if I'm gonna, you know, if I'm working with say Platnas, and I have like the basketball organization behind me, I will definitely implement like definitely like a college league. Let's develop the college league, and because we need to start them developing at a young age, right? We need to, before they get to the pros, because, you know, as long as I've been in Indonesia as a pro player, you know, it was always finding a player that didn't really have fundamentals, but he's tall, and then a team would sign him. But I think we have to start them young, fundamentally, so they could develop and have a good college system, say college tournament, college league, and then we could develop players through that to be prepared for professional basketball.
This also entails the development of the coaches also, right? Because you know, you cannot do the program without the, you know,
absolutely
certified coaches that can teach fundamentals properly.
Absolutely. I agree with that. You know,
how do you start becoming the skill development coach in the United States? Is it by reference, or do you have to take courses before you can do that?
You don't have to take courses. It's it can be by reference, but yeah, at the pro level, and you know, that helped me get into the situation that I'm in right now.
Okay.
And actually I do plan on going back to Indonesia and Asia once because I'm here right now taking care of some immigration work that I need to, you know, that I've been away from America for about 16 years. So I'm here. Once that gets done, that's going to take a couple years to get done. And eventually I do want to bring something back to Indonesia and help develop in basketball in Indonesia for sure. Or Asia in general, but Indonesia for sure.
Okay. Interesting that you mentioned about your immigration, you know, status. Indonesia has a problem. The Indonesian national team has a problem with naturalized players. We're supposed to have 2 naturalized players to play for us, for Indonesia, for the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers a couple of months ago, but it didn't work out because it takes so much time that, you know, they cannot follow the deadline. And even though the naturalized player already practiced with the team, they cannot play during the games. Do you think that Indonesia should change and how to recruit the naturalized player for the national team?
I don't know. I don't know why it was difficult for Indonesia or the government to get their naturalization process done. I'm not sure why, but I thought FIBA you're only allowed 1.
Only one. Only one. That's right. But Brandon Jawato, if you recognize him, he's kind of like the status is it's like a what do you call it in FIBA? It's somehow it's not a really import player that being naturalized. He has the Indonesian blood in it. So
good. Well, speaking on Brandon, you know, I've always wanted Brandon to have his Indonesian status for Indonesia, because, you know, I think he is probably the top Indonesian American asset that the national team can have. You know, him and Arky's already has his status, obviously, but Brandon someone has to help him get his paperwork done quick, because he is Indonesian, you know, and he can help the team tremendously in the future of Indonesian basketball, because he's still young. I mean, he's a very talented player, and he's good for the country for sure.
Yeah. In terms of the immigration regulation, do you think that a dual citizenship will help sports in Indonesia, in particular in basketball?
Absolutely. Not just basketball, but in sports.
Yeah.
But basketball, yes, for sure, because you can follow the example of, for example, the Philippines. You know, they have so many players to choose from. You know, Filipino Americans that they can use at any time. You know, we're speaking on just Filipino Americans, right? And I think Indonesia can have that same luxury if they do allow dual citizenship. Absolutely.
Do you see any potential Indonesian players player with Indonesian blood in the United States right now? Do you see a prospect?
Right now, I haven't come across one yet, but I'm sure there will be, and I'm sure they're out there. You just have to look. It's just a matter of time, you know, because I think basketball is the fastest growing sport in the world.
Right.
I think it's if not, it's already the most popular at this point. So it's only a matter of time before you're going to see Indonesian Americans that just, you know, very talented, and you want to be able to give them the option to go play for their country, you know, Indonesia, at least represent the national team, and that'll be good for both the player and the national team.
Okay. Last questions, Mario. During this COVID-19 coronavirus thing, and I believe that in your Instagram, you also mentioned that you want to use your basketball career as a platform to make a positive impact to people. Can you give us, like, you know, our fans, Basket Indonesia especially, what's the importance of, you know, sports and in this situation like this during this coronavirus pandemic?
Well, I think everyone can agree with me right now that you know, us not having basketball or sports in we're not able to watch it, we're not able to see it. You know, I think everyone recognizes how important sports and basketball in particular is for us as a society. You know, we're so invested in sports, whether it's watching it or playing it or exercising it or, you know, anything. So I think it's for us, when everything goes back to normal, you know, you have to really, really appreciate the sport of basketball, whether you're playing it, you know, when you go back to playing it, give 100%, because we know what it's like when it's not there. You know, you're practicing one day, the next day you're locked down. There's no more basketball. The world changes just like that. So give everything you have every time you're on there as a player, and as a fan or a coach or, you know, anything, spectator, just appreciate every day, you know, because tomorrow's never promised.
Okay, thank you for your kind words, Mario. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the
No
interview.
problem. Hey, you guys stay safe. I want to say, you know, Indonesia basketball, my heart is always, you know, you guys are always in my heart, and I miss Indonesia for sure. And I will be back to help the country in any way I can. I promise you that. And everyone stay safe in Indonesia, and a lot of love from Uncle Ro.
Okay. Thank you, Uncle Ro.
You're welcome, brother.